There are moments when circumstance and ambition come together to present a once-in-a-generation opportunity. And right now, in South Australia, that moment is here, starting in the Upper Spencer Gulf. This place has the power to change everything. With our unique combination of sun, wind, and valuable minerals, the state government is unlocking renewable hydrogen energy. And we can lead the world with green steel and copper production, powering a more sustainable way to live, bringing a new wave of prosperity, thousands of new local jobs, a surging economy, a new era for our state. And it's already happening. We have what the world wants, what the world demands. This is our time.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being with us here today. I just want to say a special mention of Roy Blight, the Roxby Downs Council CEO, and Justin Commons, Whyalla CEO. You're all VIPs here for us today. The aim of today's session is to help you learn more about the Northern Water Project and the Hydrogen Jobs Plan and how your businesses might be able to benefit from these exciting projects. We'd love you to be able to better understand the procurement approach and timelines for the project and more specific information about the Hydrogen Jobs Plan work packages. Please note the session will be videoed and it'll be available for playback later online. If you do ask questions, you're being videoed, so if you don't like that, let us know before you ask the question. The first presentation will outline the broader industrial opportunities in the region, and it'll help see where all of these projects that we're talking about today fit in the bigger picture. We'll then have a session on Northern Water where we'll show you a bit more information about where we're at with the project and what we're looking at coming forward, especially our procurement and approach and our approach to industry participation. We're then going to break for morning tea and have a networking session because we know that at events like this, some of the most valuable times are those times not spent sitting in your seat but talking to one another. After that, the Hydrogen Jobs Plan will have updates from their various project partners as well as Electronet, where they'll provide you more information about their work packages. And the ICN will do a short presentation just to let you know what their users are looking for when they're looking at your site profiles. And then we're going to have Q&A after the two longer sessions about the projects. And then we're going to have more networking and some light nibbles so you can have something to eat before you leave for lunch. Maria Costi is going to do an acknowledgement of country before we kick off. Thanks, Maria. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maria Costi. I'm the Director of Engagement and Communications at the Office of Hydrogen Power SA. So we acknowledge the Bangala people as the traditional custodians of the ancestral lands we meet on today. We acknowledge the Bangala people as the traditional owners of the land spanning from the northern region of Spencer Gulf through to the south of Port Lincoln. We also pay respects to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting or attending from other areas of South Australia, including nations in the north of our state, and acknowledge the contribution to our projects collectively. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. Jeremy Conway is the CEO of Infrastructure South Australia, who are running the Northern Water Project, and he's going to share some information about the bigger picture for the projects for the state.
Thanks, Joe. I was on the Major Economic Summit with the Premier over the last week or so, where we were at this very venue and had a pretty similar sized crowd. So it's good to see that that momentum's carried on and the interest from the community and local industry in the opportunities that the government's keen to drive. I'm probably a poor second cousin to the Premier in terms of presentational style, and but I'll do my best to gee everyone up and give them a sense in terms of what the project context was. So the Premier announced the State Prosperity Project over the weekend in conjunction with the Major Economic Summit through the Upper Spencer Gulf. Related to that were some key announceables from the government. Quite notable amongst them was the bringing forward of the renewable energy target, and so South Australia quite proudly can say that we're going to be going from 1% renewables to 100% renewables within 20 years, with a target to be at 100% net renewable by 2027. There were some announceables which the Hydrogen Jobs Plan guys will be able to touch on related to their projects in terms of preferred partners for turbines, MOUs around potential offtakes, but a real demonstration that that project is really getting serious and approaching the delivery phase there. And the government also announced that they're going to release an EOI to identify partners to develop green iron and particularly direct reduced iron processes within South Australia, which is a really exciting opportunity. So there was a lot to be taken out of the Economic Summit and what's involved in the State Prosperity Project. But the one thing that I really took out of it, and will stay with me, I believe, is that the Premier, I think, expressed a really clear vision for what is the opportunity for the state, how can we make sure that South Australia maximises these opportunities that are available to it through our very rich endowments of wind and solar and some of our natural resources, but doing it in a way that lifts the prosperity of everyone. We want to improve the living standards across the state. The Premier was referring to average wages in the resource and energy sector being $60,000 to $70,000 a year more than average wages in South Australia. That's the way how he sees that you really can make a real impact on the cost of living crisis by lifting people's living standards, increasing the economy within South Australia, the revenue coming into the state, which enables us to provide more community services, better access to hospitals, better access to schools, those sorts of services. So it's really quite a great clarity in his vision in terms of what it can be done. And it's all largely based around what we see as the economic opportunities from the global megatrend for the need to decarbonise. That is obviously in part from our excellent wind and solar resources. As I mentioned, we've now leading the world really in our renewable energy target to be 100% renewable by 2027. That's better than any jurisdiction or sub-jurisdiction, I believe. Again, I'll use the Premier's words. Google it. If I'm wrong, don't correct me. And it's the very nature of that coincident wind and solar in South Australia where we have at present in the same location that leads to really impressive capacity factors, which means we are one of the most economical places in the world to produce hydrogen. And hydrogen as a zero carbon fuel for the future has a great utility. There's obviously a lot of international interest in it, but more so than just our renewable resources, the opportunity for South Australia to leverage the global need to decarbonise is as much around our mineral resources that support that. And key to that was around copper. Copper is critical to the decarbonisation of the world. We've seen a lot of recent volatility in nickel and lithium and some of those battery-related minerals, whereas copper is held up quite strong. That is because copper is central to everything you do in decarbonisation. There's a lot of copper in batteries. There'll be thousands of kilometres of copper cables as we rebuild our grid. There's about 4 times the copper in an EV to a standard car. And there's about 4.7 tonnes of copper in every wind turbine. So the global demand of copper is only increasing. He was showing some charts from S&P that look at the global demand of copper doubling to about 50 million tonnes a year by 2035. And in some forecasts, that's going to be a 10 million tonne a year shortage of copper. The world needs more copper, and that's where South Australia is awesomely placed. We have 69% of the known resources of copper in Australia, and the Gawler-Creighton province up north, where Olympic Dam and Carrapateena and Prom Hill are currently, is one of the most prospective regions globally. Along with the summit, the Premier and Cabinet Ministers went up to some of the mines at BHP and at the Oak Dam site of some of the discoveries there. You're seeing grades of 2% plus of copper in those ores. The world's biggest copper mines in Chile, like in Escondida, they're at 0.5% copper. So this is really good quality stuff. The world's going to need more and more copper. The challenge that we have with copper is that it needs a lot of water, and so for every kilo of copper, you need 87 litres of water. That means for each one of those wind turbines, that's 395,000 litres of water you need. So it's a big drain on natural resources, where Northern Water will come in. Before I just touch on Northern Water, though, I'll touch on the other aspect that the Premier was really keen on and relates to the EOI that we're going to be putting out, and that's the opportunity around green iron. So the iron and steel industry is one of the largest industrial emitters of CO2. It's around about 7% of total CO2 emissions globally. It's a huge imperative for the world to try and decarbonise that steel industry. We need steel. We can't operate without steel. So obviously a lot of history in Whyalla around the steel industry. That's not going anywhere soon. What we do need to do is find ways to decarbonise that. And that's again where South Australia is very well placed to take advantage of these opportunities, because Western Australia for a long time has had rivers of iron, I guess, filling their balance sheets with all the hematite in the Pilbara. South Australia, though, is very rich in magnetite, and it's magnetite that's very easy, well, not very easy, but much easier to convert to a higher grade iron that can be used in direct reduced iron processes, and that's how you get the green iron into green steel. To really make it green iron, what do we need? You need hydrogen. That's why the government is committed to the Hydrogen Jobs Plan. It's a great demonstration of the government's commitment to that. That money is locked in the budget. This is happening. The state is going to be building the world's biggest electrolyser. So Sam and his team will come and talk about that. So I won't go into a great amount of details to it, but it's clear that it is going to play a very critical role ensuring that our big job centres like the steelworks can have industrial processes that are decarbonised. Now, Northern Water. The team here will go through a bit more detail about the project and what some of the opportunities might be in the foreseeable future for that. But what is clear to us is, and this region particularly would be really sensitive to it, South Australia is the driest state and the driest continent. Water is central to everything we do, and it's central to all the economic opportunities that we see coming forward. Whyalla is clearly reliant on the River Murray. A lot of the mining processes up north are reliant on either the Great Artesian Basin or other sensitive natural aquifers. Climate change is only going to make the reliability on those natural water sources more vulnerable, and so we need a sustainable, climate-independent source of water, and that's what Northern Water is going to deliver. It's a very large project. The Premier over the summit was mentioning that it's going to be at least $5 billion. Even the next phase to take it to final investment decision is going to cost $200 to $230 million. So this is not a small task or enterprise the government's going to take, but it's key to unlocking a lot of these opportunities. And it's these sorts of visionary projects that I think governments should be doing. The picture to the left I stole from the Premier's slide presentation. That's a picture of Playford, the longest serving Premier in South Australia, in 1944, turning on the Morgan Whyalla pipeline tap. And I have no doubt the Premier's going to ask us to build an equally similar giant tap to turn it on when we commission Northern Water. But that, at its time, was a visionary project. The Playford saw a great opportunity during World War II for the need to improve sovereign capability in some of these core manufacturing things. He went to BHP, said, what you should do is process iron and make steel at Whyalla. What was needed for that was a new water source, and that's where they embarked upon constructing the Morgan Whyalla pipeline. That new source of water opened up the opportunities for the steelworks. It opened up the shipyards here, really led to the industrialisation of the Upper Spencer Gulf, and it's taken the position as an industrial heartland for really the country. What we see Northern Water is this era's new visionary project that can unlock the reindustrialisation of the state but in the industries that the world needs now, the clean industries that are going to drive the decarbonisation, and recognise that South Australia has what the world wants, South Australia has what the world demands. The government's role is to try and do things that unlock the opportunities for businesses such as yours to then be able to invest, grow your businesses, create the jobs, and improve the living standards for everyone in South Australia. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Morgan, the Project Director for Northern Water, and welcome to those of you that have travelled from outside of Whyalla to be here today. I guess today feels like an important milestone for me. It almost feels like the birth of my third child after a somewhat difficult 2 years of gestation, but I'm looking forward to this one coming along. Just would like to first touch on why we chose Whyalla for our first major industrial public briefing on the project. So I think Whyalla, with its deep industrial roots, know-how and capability, will be critical to the success of Northern Water. Before I get stuck into my main bit of my presentation, I would like to thank everyone for being here today. Appreciate that you've all got business to run and other things you could be doing with your time. So we certainly intend to put it to good use. I'd also like to thank my team and also the Tactic team in putting together today together. A lot of work goes into these events, and I know that there's a few sort of bloodshot eyes and a few people looking forward to a good sleep tonight. Thought I'd just start off with to give you a bit of a context of what the infrastructure is that goes along with Northern Water. To give you a sense of the scale, Northern Water, the actual desalination plant itself will be similar in size to the Adelaide desal plant, but then it'll be coupled with a 600-kilometre pipeline heading to the north of the state. But rather than listening to me drone on, we've got what I think is a fantastic couple-of-minute video clip that will give you a sort of a better sense of what the infrastructure is. So I hope that gives you a bit of a sense of what Northern Water is from an infrastructure perspective. But I even find myself, it's difficult really to try and put that into context and to have a genuine appreciation of what's involved in the project. So I've got a couple of other facts to share with you that sort of hits home for me what Northern Water will be. So it'll be the third largest desalination plant in Australia. Don't fact check me on this, and according to Dr. Google, that the pipeline will be the longest freshwater pipeline in the world. But I think beyond that, and goes towards the signal of the government's commitment, the project will be the largest investment in regional South Australia in the state's history, and will be the second largest investment overall behind North-South corridor. So it is a significant undertaking that we're committing to. It's also unique in the customers that it's intended to serve. It'll provide water to the likes of BHP, Origin, Fortescue, Amp Energy, the Woomera Defence Base, pastoralist community suppliers, and a range of other potential users. As you're probably also aware, we've recently completed the business case for Northern Water. If you're interested, there's a summary document at the back of the room on the table. And I've been involved in a lot of business case and assessment of investment opportunities. I tallied that up recently. It was over $150 billion worth of investments that I've been part of. I have to say that this is the most compelling opportunity that I've come across in my time. So it's forecast to have a material and generational impact on the Australian economy, which was highlighted recently by the Premier and Jeremy also. It starts with a benefit cost ratio of 1.4. So what that means is for every dollar that's invested in the project, it will produce $1.40 in additional economic benefit to the country. But I think more than the headline ratios, it'll triple copper production in the state, result in 4,000 new jobs from industries that will be supported by Northern Water. As I mentioned, we'll have a material impact on gross state product. And the anecdote that I love that Jeremy mentioned, that the pay in the industries that Northern Water will be supporting are materially higher than the state average, sort of $60,000 to $70,000 per annum higher. So it gives you an idea of what that'll mean for people that will be part of the industries that will be supported by Northern Water. Just to summarise, why are we interested in Northern Water? So the first one is economic development. We'll support existing industries and businesses to develop, whether that's the big end of town with BHP or pastoralists and farmers along the pipeline route. It'll enable sustainable development in new industries such as hydrogen. It'll reduce reliance on climate-dependent sources of water, such as the Great Artesian Basin and Murray, and provide a source of water that can be relied upon during periods of climate change and when rainfall is reduced. It will also improve the livability of the regions by creating new, well-paid jobs as well as training opportunities. So, thank you very much for your time. I think that's me, and I'll hand over to Joe Telfer. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I don't know how well I introduced myself earlier, but I'm Josephine, and my role in the project is great. I get to lead engagement with our community and stakeholders. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the project and the overall project timeline and some of the highlights of what we've done as part of the business case and what we're looking at doing next for engagement with the community. So the project began with ISA in 2019, where a few of the potential customers came and approached ISA with this opportunity that they could see for a pipeline and new water supply to really support the reindustrialisation of South Australia. Following that, ISA did some initial economic analysis and found that there was likely to be some merit to this, and that then informed the beginning of the business case. So then 2002 and 2003, we worked together as a team to develop the business case, and I'll provide a bit more about that in a minute. And then, just recently the Premier has announced that they've accepted the business case, and they can see that it's quite compelling and they're getting really excited about it now. So now we are beginning the final investment decision work so that we can just further de-risk the project and prove it up as a concept and get it ready to the point where it's ready for a final investment decision by both government and our private partners, well not partners, customers, whose investment and commitment to the project will underpin the work. So just to touch on the business case now, during the business case we developed a fully costed reference design, which is what is being used to inform our design process, and it's the reference design which was what was featured in that 3D model previously. The final design might not look anything like that, or it might look a lot like that, but that's what we've got to base our approvals on, and that's what we're engaging with the community about at the moment. We also undertook a site selection process, the early project costings based on the reference design, and lots of stakeholder engagement. The business accounts was announced in early 2022, and at that time we commenced engagement with a range of stakeholder groups, including local government, marine conservation groups, and regional development boards. Early engagement indicated that one of the most important initial issue for the community was to select the right site for the desal plant, and also that local industry opportunities were realised throughout the project. The imperative to get the site right led us to, or really supported our decision to undertake a rigorous site selection process. Initially, we looked at 10 areas around the Eyre Peninsula and Yorke Peninsula, including the west coast, the east coast, and the west coast of Yorke Peninsula. And we then removed sites we created a short list of sites which were not materially more expensive when considered against other similar sites, or where they were likely to have a reasonable likelihood of having suitable environmental performance. This led us to 3 sites and then eventually 4 shortlisted sites. Once we had a short list of potentially viable sites, we began to discuss the approach to the final site selection process with community representation and representatives. One of the first things that we did was a workshop held in that room just over there with a range of stakeholders, where we worked together to look at what should be included in shortlisting and what were the things that were really important to the community. Some of the stakeholders again include marine environment, fisheries, local businesses, tourism, environmental groups, community and regional development agencies. We worked through with that group what were the most important aspects in selecting the site and what we needed to cover in our environmental impact assessment. What we heard from this engagement and other engagement with community members is that there was broad community support for a new supply of water, and that the expectation was that this new supply of water could not cause significant harm to the marine environment. The outcome of this process was that Cape Hardy has been selected as our preferred site, and this decision's been really well supported by stakeholders who see it as a real win for community engagement and involvement in decision making. The Upper Spencer Gulf is still central to the very long pipeline, and there are plenty of local job opportunities for businesses in Whyalla and around the Upper Spencer Gulf. And we kind of think it's nice that you guys get to be fed by supply that comes from further away from the region. Today, our team's been out and about in the community, connecting with people to understand their thoughts on the project and to answer all kinds of questions that come up. So far, we've connected with over 300 organisations and well in excess of 1,000 different individuals. We've been focusing our efforts on being where the community already are and being visible. This includes a range of community events such as country shows, including the Whyalla Show, the Port Pirie Smelters Picnic, the Yorke Peninsula Field Days, and a whole range of the Eyre Peninsula country shows in the spring. We also often hang out at the local IGA or corner store. Our no-frills and low-cost engagement approach has led to many genuine on-ground conversations, and we're really enjoying going back to the same areas and continuing conversations when we're next in the area. Moving into the formal planning and assessment phase, which is where we're at now, the project will be developing the procurement approach and the formal tender process will be undertaken, and Mark's going to speak more about that shortly. We're also undertaking a deep environmental, economic and social impact assessment in the form of an EIS, which will be formally consulted on later this year. We're also undertaking ongoing cultural heritage surveys and native title negotiations, land access negotiations, and of course more conversations with the community. Looking forward for engagement and what we're looking at with you and your peers, and part of the reason for providing this now is that we see the people in this room as being, you're not only local industry, you're also local community members, and so we feel that you're an important part of the community. That's why we put this into this session. We're going to be doing a Meet the Experts series of sessions with core project team members. Now on your seat, you'll see you've got this little QR code. If you want to connect with the project, later on we'll be referring to Tactic. You can connect to Tactic through this QR code. You can connect with our distribution list through this code, and you can also get a link to the ICN through this code, so keep your eye on this. But if there are any things that you want more particular information about, for anything to do with the project, let us know, because we want to come up with information sessions that answer your questions and meet you where you're at. So we'll bring in whoever we need to so that we can have that conversation. We're also looking at doing pop-ups and road shows. We've set up a regional site office, and during the week on alternate Wednesdays, we'll either be staffing at the Hydrogen Jobs Plan OPSA office in Whyalla, or we've got a site office in Tumby Bay. Just touch base with us if you're interested in popping in. If there's any events that you'd like us to come to or you think we should be at, or if you'd like us to come and talk to your group, please let us know, because as we said, we like to be where people are and to meet them where they're at. So there's more contact details up there. So this is just the range of general ways that you can contact the project team and where you can find more information. But for anything specific to today, use the QR code that's on your seat, or that there's more at the back of the room. And these details are also on a postcard that you can take if you'd like. Mark Christie is now going to come up, and he's going to talk to you more about our procurement approach and ways that you can link into that. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe, and good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Christie. I'm the Director of Procurement and Delivery for Northern Water. So what that means, I get to manage to build what Mike was showing here, the desalination plant and the pipeline, which I'm very excited about. What I'll be presenting to you today is the procurement process being used for the project, and importantly, how and when the local industry needs to engage with tenderers to maximise your opportunities. What is very clear is the project cannot be delivered without significant local input. You'll hear the term DBOM, as this is the proposed contract model. What it stands for is design, build, operate and maintain. It is the same model that was used for the Sydney and Adelaide desalination plant, and also the Wentworth to Broken Hill pipeline scheme, which were three very well-delivered projects. Under a DBOM, there are two contracts: a single D&C for the plants in the pipeline, and an O&M contract which runs for 20 years with the option of 2 5-year extensions. The importance of this is that they need to be bid as a consortium. And what that means is the operator needs to price what the D&C is proposing to build. The model is very important as it determines how you need to engage with the tenderers. This slide shows the procurement phases, and we're currently in the EOI phase, and we held a similar briefing yesterday in Adelaide for the proposed shortlisted respondents to the registration of interest. The phase which should be most interested to the people in this room will be the RFP, or request for proposal, or tender phase. Sorry we mixed those up independently, but they all mean the same thing. It's the pricing phase. And this is when tenders will do their pricing. And importantly, this is where they need to put their obligations and promises and commitments around local content. So it's very important that you engage through this process. This slide is a bit busy, sorry, but it does show the procurement program in detail. What you need to know from this, though, is during the EOI phase, which we're currently in, which is the blue phase, this is when we will shortlist down to 2 consortiums. And those consortiums will include the DNC and the O&M parties. But it's also when people in this room need to register and connect with Tactic in preparation for the next phase. So the timing is good. Now is the time. You're not too late, not too early. During the greenish or sage phase up there is the actual tender phase, starting in August and ending in March. It's quite a long phase, 7 months. And the reason for that is we do want the consortiums to spend a fair bit of time on their concept designs before they go into the pricing process, which means the pricing process is likely to be around Christmas or before Christmas, such that they can do their work and get their approvals in readiness for March. So it will be from August onwards that you need to engage with these consortiums, and you will do that through the ICN tactic and other means. So that is the phase that you need to concentrate on. This slide shows the various components of the DBOM contract, and a lot of that has been described quite well in that fly-through that Mike showed. So basically, the components of it are the desalination plant, the pipeline, including the storages and pumping stations, and the ancillary works, which are the temporary camps, offices and laydown areas. And please don't forget the O&M phase, which will go for 20 to 30 years and will need significant input locally, so that operations will be mainly based in Cape Hardy, but will go all the way along the pipeline. So there'll be opportunities for maintenance, cleaning, landscaping, and also resources required to operate them. Just to give you an idea of the pipeline, 600-kilometre pipeline, it's likely to be a steel construction. The reference design was based on a mild steel cement line construction of about 1.2, it's actually 1280, I think, millimetre diameter, largely along the stretch. So it's a very significant piece of infrastructure, mostly buried in the reference design. Yeah, there is a number of pump stations along the way and storages. What this slide does show down the bottom, hopefully you can see it, is the various packages and equipment supplies that will be needed by the consortiums, and they will need to be locally sourced, and I'll describe why in a minute. But as you can see, it ranges from major civil works during the DNC to catering and sort of cleaning services and hosting events like this as well. So there's opportunities for all. And not only just through the construction phase, through the operations phase as well. So outside the DBOM contract, Northern Water also procure a few other items. The electricity infrastructure itself will be procured not through the DBOM contract. It will be done by Northern Water, and that is likely to be supplied through Electronet and SAPN, but we're working through those details at the moment. The actual power supply itself will also be procured by Northern Water, and there's a separate procurement process that is going to market mid this year for a green supply of energy that will be brought in through the commissioning phase and for the full 2030 operation phase. Currently, we're doing some enabling works to prepare for the DBOM contractor. They include the geotechnical investigations. There's quite a lot of work to be done. There's 600 kilometres of pipe that we need to do pits and investigations along. and not to mention the marine aspects of this. To put tunnels out through the marines, we've got to know what rock's there, and hopefully it is rock and not slushy stuff. So we're doing that investigations at the moment, as well as all the environmental services by Alicia's team to get that ready, and all the land, talking to landholders as well. Also looking in the future, we're going to need a fleet of vehicles. We're going to need officers here that need to be serviced, and other things that are shown up there. So, like I said, there's opportunities for all. This project is covered by the South Australian Industry Participation Policy, which is very important. It is a South Australian election promise and something that we're held to. This process is approved and overseen by the industry advocate. The IPP is about building long-term capacity of the local business, providing opportunities for local employment and maximising that, and ensuring that parties meet their contractual obligations. I'll go through that in a bit more detail. For the DBOM contract, Northern Water has been working very closely with the industry advocate to develop what is known as the IPP Statement of Intent, so Industry Participation Policy Statement of Intent, for both the D&C component and the O&M component. These are very important documents, and they are included in the EOI documents that were submitted about 4 weeks ago. And the consortiums are actually required to respond to these documents and sign declarations that they will follow them. And what are in these statements of intents are targets. We've set benchmark targets, and they need to respond to those benchmarks and hopefully suggest stretch targets around local content, training, skills development, Aboriginal involvement, and the like. What we're going to do with those responses for the EOI is work with the industry advocate, and they come up with a tailored IPP for the project. That tailored IPP is part of the RFP documentation, and which the respondents need to respond to. So this is going to be very important for the people in this room. They're very, very hard targets to achieve, so I don't think any stone will remain unturned trying to achieve the most out of the local input. So please be prepared for that. They are signing up to these things, so they need to be realistic as well as a bit aspirational. The response has a 20% evaluation weighting for the whole of the procurement. That's very significant, so that's how important this is. And they become contractually binding within the contract and monitored by the industry of industrial advocate. So it is a very important part of this, and this is why we're holding a session like this today, as everyone in this room plays an important part in us delivering this project. So I'll hand over to Dan to talk about industrial participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and good morning, everyone. My name's Dan Mollison, and I'm the industry participation lead working across both Northern Water and the Hydrogen Jobs Plan. It's fantastic to be here today and see a range of familiar faces as well across the room, and great to be involved in a project of this scale that has such immense benefit and potential for South Australia and more broadly, as we've heard about from the team here today. I have a diverse role across the project teams, working closely with Mark's team, with Joe's team, and with Maria and Sam's team from Hydrogen Jobs Plan that you'll hear about shortly today as well. And part of that role is around the planning and enabling of initiatives across the projects that will really drive opportunities for maximising industry participation and workforce participation in the projects. And that includes areas around training and skills development as well. As we've heard from many of the team today, there's a very strong commitment to industry participation, and Mark's just mentioned that with regards to the IPP and the requirements that will be put on consortiums and teams in achieving that. I'll touch briefly on workforce impact for Northern Water. So we've heard from many of the team around job creation and job opportunities across workforce, and this is both for Northern Water and hydrogen, but relevant for the region and all the other investments that are planned or in progress over the years to come. For Northern Water, the workforce requirements are extensive, and this here is presenting some minimum workforce estimates based on our current reference design. At minimum, we're expecting between 800 and 1,000 new on-ground direct construction jobs, and this excludes all of the indirect roles that will be required to deliver the project as well. So a fairly extensive workforce as an absolute minimum there as well. This is around over 400 on average for the transfer system and pipeline that Mark's talked through, and over 430 for the desalination plant over an indicative 3-year construction program. Probably even more importantly, beyond the construction program, and Jeremy's touched on this in his presentation earlier, is the enabling opportunities that Northern Water and associated projects will create for the region. Jeremy's mentioned some 4,200 full-time roles on average over the coming decades that a project like Northern Water can enable for industry. So it's a significant opportunity, significant workforce, but also does present us with some challenges around how we actually achieve that workforce and sustain that workforce as well. The project teams are looking forward to continuing to work with partners, and many of you in the room here today, to support the development of regional capacity, capability, and skills and training, not only to support projects like Northern Water and Hydrogen Jobs Plan, but the pipeline of projects that will come in the years ahead. As part of that, local knowledge and experience in the room here today and locally on the ground in the industry is critical to supporting this. So please reach out and connect with us if you have ideas or suggestions and are keen to have some input into how we maximise the opportunity, but also deal with some of the challenges around workforce capacity. Please reach out via the QR codes that Joe's talked about, and yeah, we can be in touch and work together in that context. A little bit more detail around the construction workforce expected for Northern Water. We do have some estimates of right down to specific job roles. I won't go into them today, but we'll just look at some of the high level discipline areas in terms of workforce requirements. To support the construction program, as I mentioned, based on the reference design, we're expecting there'll be over 300 full-time labourers roles on site, over 300 direct machinery operator roles, and probably well over 400 direct trade and skilled technical roles as well. So a substantial workforce to be sustained over the 3-year construction program. The distribution and timing of these requirements will vary across both the plant and the and the transfer system. So as has been mentioned today from Mark through his presentation, there's a very strong commitment to South Australian local workforce and supply chain participation in the project, and it's absolutely critical for project success. Over the next few minutes, I'll share some of the details around the initiatives that we are planning and implementing across both Northern Water and the Hydrogen Jobs Plan to increase and maximise opportunities for local participation. Workforce skills, training and schools programs are critical in a future workforce to support the opportunities that these projects present. We're very aware that there's high demand on workforce across the region, across South Australia and more broadly nationally as well, with a significant pipeline of investment and demands on the labour market over the coming years. We're working with regional partners and some of you in the room here today with us to better understand and tackle this challenge. And as part of this, we're working with partners to progress initiatives focusing on Aboriginal economic participation for both employment, workforce and business opportunities for Aboriginal business. As Mark has mentioned in his presentation around the project procurement and some of the potential work packages and requirements, they are extensive. And we're working with regional partners to plan and enable a business support program and related initiatives that will help businesses prepare to participate in a major project at various levels within the supply chain. Tying many of these areas together, successful participation in projects like Northern Water and Hydrogen Jobs Plan are all around connectivity. So connectivity between all of us here today, between industry, project partners, potential proponents delivering the projects and the project team itself. An important part around enabling this connectivity are the roles that our partners in TACTIC and the ICN play. And you'll hear from TACTIC and ICN in the session later on this morning. I'd like to touch a little bit on what we're doing around workforce skills and capacity. And this is relevant for both Northern Water, Hydrogen Jobs Plan, but also more broadly across the region. Northern Water are working closely along with Hydrogen Jobs Plan and UniHub Spencer Gulf, along with other regional partners, many of you of which are here today, to plan a range of workforce skills, training and engagement initiatives. Over the past few months, we've been engaging broadly across the region to review and build an understanding of capability and capacity and have a look at how that correlates to the on-ground construction requirements for the two projects. This has assisted the project team identify key constraints, key gaps in workforce and capacity capability, but more importantly, where the opportunities are in relation to those expected high demand roles and occupations that the projects will offer. From this process, we've started developing a schools pathway program, and this will be combined across both Northern Water and Hydrogen Jobs Plan and the future potential projects that the Office of Hydrogen Power South Australia will be delivering. The program will assist in building a new workforce capability in the region to balance and backfill some of the high demand roles that these projects will require from the market. Broadly, and you can see on the slide here, the pathway that we're looking at would be focused around a Certificate 2 in resources and infrastructure. It would have a Year 10 entry point, but a number of entry points beyond Year 10 as well. The pathway will also enable specialisation into other qualifications that will be important for the region in the delivery of other projects. A key part of this is the integration of the program with the Indigenous Skills and Employment Program. As many would be aware and potentially involved in the room today as well, that program is being delivered in the region here, based out of Whyalla, and focuses on connecting First Nations peoples to jobs, career advancement, training and job-ready activities in between the ages of 16 and 24. It's a really important piece that we are building into that pathway program for both Northern Water and Hydrogen Jobs Plan. In terms of the schools pathway program, this can't be delivered without input from industry, from businesses, and participation from those in the region that hold the knowledge and the experience and the capability in the delivery of these type of projects. Some potential examples, if you're interested in getting involved, and we really encourage you to get in touch if you are. School research projects, industry immersion, that's really important to provide that practical experience for students, work placements, schools-based apprenticeships, school presentations, industry challenges, and I mentioned as well the Indigenous pathway programs as well. Please do reach out if you are interested in getting involved, again via the QR code that Joe's talked about this morning. I touched on the business support program as well, and I'll share a couple of examples here, and there will be more to come over time that we'll share through our ICN and Northern Water communication channels. We've been partnering with the RDA Eyre Peninsula in a range of cultural workshops, the first of which was held this Tuesday in Port Pirie. I was unable to attend myself, but I understand it was a really great session and really successful, and there's a few in the room that attended that session. These workshops aim to support businesses develop and understand culturally appropriate employment and working environments, and a whole range of other areas that may be of high interest. There are 3 more of these workshops scheduled in Port Augusta, Whyalla and Port Lincoln, and potentially more given the success of the first session this week. Details on those workshops can be found via the RDA website and also via the Northern Water ICN portal that we'll touch on today later as well. In terms of business capability development, we are developing a workshop series there. Again, it will be with regional partners. The first series of those will be around the ICN, and we'll be having a session in Whyalla and in Tumby Bay. The dates for those are to be confirmed, but will be early April. So for those looking and maybe not so familiar with the ICN, there'll be great interactive workshops to assist you engage with the project. Further, there's a small business fundamentals program which is well underway. The RDA is leading that element as well, and Northern Water, potentially Hydrogen Jobs Plan, will be integrating for some sessions in that program. So finally, some brief points around connecting with the project, which we have touched on earlier today. These are probably really important entry points and channels for staying informed about the projects, keeping up to date with where the projects are at, and staying across the opportunities as the project emerges through its sort of procurement timeframe that Mark has mentioned earlier as well. Firstly, there, register with ICN. Bettina will be speaking later today as well around the ICN and both the portals that are set up for Hydrogen Jobs Plan and Northern Water. These are really important channels for both of these projects. Northern Water launched the ICN project portal only a couple of weeks ago, and we've got over 220, I think it might be up to 250 as of the last couple of days, registrations of interest from business, with a great representation across the project region here, more broadly across South Australia, and then a high level of interstate interest as well. So really encourage everyone to get onto the ICN and register your interest. We will be sharing a lot of information through that channel over the coming months. Connecting with the schools program if you are keen to support and get involved as that initiative progresses. So please reach out via the QR code. And joining the business support program. I've mentioned the two already around the cultural workshops and the small business fundamentals program, and there will be more information via Northern Water website and the ICN on future workshops in that series. And finally, connect with Tactic. We've got many in the room today here from Tactic, and we'll hear shortly from Scott as well. Tactic are a really important partner for both Northern Water and Hydrogen Jobs Plan on the ground here locally, connecting industry, suppliers, businesses with the project. So encourage everyone to connect with Tactic. We've got Rob here today, we've got Scott, Tamara, Louise, Ali, so please reach out to them in the break for a catch-up. So in wrapping up, as mentioned by many in the team today, maximising local industry, business and workforce participation, including the development of training and skills, is a critical component for both Northern Water and Hydrogen Jobs Plan, and we're investing in this heavily. In terms of delivering and building that capability and those opportunities, we look forward to collaborative opportunities ahead in this regard with many of you in this room, and that's a really important element of getting this right. I will now introduce Scott from Tactic, and Scott will provide some more detail around Tactic's role in the projects more broadly and in the region. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Wow, massive. So my name's Scott McKay and I'm the chair of Tactic. And for those of you who are not already connected, which is probably very few in the room today, we're an independent, member-driven organisation that fast-tracks the linking of local supplier capability to major project proponents. And we support their success through some supply chain integrity. So we have extensive industry links. I think we're a trusted source of sort of regional intelligence at all levels of government and business. So we say we are experts in connectivity, and our roots are sort of deeply embedded in the communities and businesses that we serve, as has sort of grown out over 20 years since the original GMUSG started, now Tactic. So we've expanded our reach, and we've also expanded the range of services that we provide. So 60% of our members are bricks and mortar businesses within the Upper Spencer Gulf, and while the remainder represents businesses with regional interests or involvement in projects in the regions. So the distinct benefit offered by Tactic is what we say the home ground advantage. So through our relationships with the regional asset owners, we afford you the opportunity to showcase your unique capabilities in a variety of ways, including the members' portals, regional events, and at your own workshop or site. So with over 2 decades of experience, Tactic's cultivated relationships with people, businesses and communities in the Upper Spencer Gulf region and beyond. So this is a journey that's involved a lot of detailed analysis of industry data coupled with factual reporting of projects' requirements and developments. In our role as independent advocates and connectors, we strike a delicate balance between the impartiality and optimism, contributing to the growth and in the region and forging enduring links. So the how, Tactic's role in the Northern Water project. So we're partnering with Northern Water to facilitate local connectivity. So this is a real honour for Tactic. But it really sits at our whole central, it's a whole DNA of what we're about. We're supporting a project to make industry connections at the local level. And we're leveraging the local knowledge and relationships that you all have to connect you to the project. We're facilitating contractor tours of the region, providing contractors with an understanding of the regional capability. And we'll do our best to disseminate Northern Water project information to you. We facilitate and support regional project information sessions, such as the one here today. And we support Northern Water in community engagement activities. And as the previous speakers have said, you're going to maximise the opportunities for this region to help deliver upon that 20% weighting in the industry participation plan. So engage early, tell us about the concerns and opportunities you may have from what you've heard, and we'll help you to be successful and help the project's success. So in closing, thank you very much, and please see Louise, Tamara and Ali for further information, or if you would like to become a member. I'd like to hand over to Jo Telfer. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. All right, it's time for some Q&A now. So we have received some questions previously, but our trustee, Alicia Wright, who's our Director of Land Access and Approvals, is going to host this session. So I'll invite all of the presenters up to take your seats on the bar stools, and I'll hand over to Alicia.
Thanks, Jo. As Joe said, my name's Alicia Wright. I'm the Director of Approvals and Land Access for Northern Water. So I look after environmental approvals, land access, land acquisition, landholder relations, cultural heritage and native title. So if those are things that you'd like to talk about, come find me at the break, and I'm happy to have a chat with you. It's really, I'm really pleased to see so many old friends and colleagues from past projects and new connections here today as well. Really good turnout. I think we're all really excited, team. So this is a Q&A session. I'm moonlighting in my actually preferred role, which is hosting this sort of stuff. I don't really want to do approvals. This is really where I'm at. So we do have some, so while you're all thinking of some questions that you might want to ask the panel up here, we did get lots of questions in the lead up to today, most of which we've tried to answer through the presentations, but there's a couple that haven't been, so I'm going to start with those while the rest of you get your questions ready and get your nerves ready to stand up in front of people and ask those questions. So the first question, and I'll probably direct this to you, Dan, are there opportunities for smaller companies and sole traders that perhaps don't have all the systems in place to collaborate with larger organisations so they can get a look in?
Thanks, Alicia. Great question, and absolutely is the answer. I think projects of this scale require collaboration across the full supply chain, and we appreciate that some smaller businesses may not have the certifications or may not have engaged in a major procurement process before, and that's why we've got organisations like Tactic involved, the ICN, and some of the workshops that we're rolling out that look at some of those business fundamentals in terms of how you may engage with other suppliers, with other businesses, and in the supply chain, if not necessarily, with a major consortium, but part of that consortium supply chain. So I think absolutely critical to the success of the project, and encourage people, if you are a smaller business wanting to get involved and wanting to learn about who else might be getting involved, to reach out to Tactic, and through Tactic's networks, they'll be able to assist in that process as well.
Thanks, Dan. A question that I might throw to perhaps Jeremy or Mike. Are there any plans for, or it could be Mark as well, I'll let you guys fight it out. Are there any plans for Northern Water to integrate into the Eyre Peninsula municipal water supply and distribution system?
Mark's handed that to me, so that'll be mine. Good question. So the current planning for Northern Water, and we're working closely with SA Water for a potential supply to them as well, is linking into some of their networks around Whyalla and Lincoln Gap. And so there's definitely opportunities for Northern Water to supply some of that municipal supply. As it heads further north, we'll also be supplying the townships around Woomera and Roxby as well. So there is some community supply aspects to this. But there's definitely an opportunity for Northern Water to provide additional resilience for future drought conditions by being able to tap into the SA Water network.
Thanks, Jeremy. And the last question I have from previous is perhaps for Mike. It's a question around the energy supply mix. Where are Northern Water getting their power from? Who's providing it? And is there a potential to use renewable energy?
Thanks, Alicia. So I think it might have been Mark mentioned that we're kicking off our procurement process for power sort of middle of this year. So we'll be looking for 20 to 30 year supply agreements. It will be 100% renewable energy. But to give you a bit of a sense around the amount of electricity that we need, it'll be around 50 megawatts of supply that we need. It's probably around, give a bit more detail around what that might look like. It's probably around, capable of 15 turbines would be required to supply that electricity. But yeah, as I mentioned, we'll have a procurement process starting for that in the middle of this year.
Thanks, Mike. When I come around with the microphone, if you just say your first name and who you're representing before you ask your question.
Tim Harper, Pioneer Water Tanks SA. I haven't found in any of the literature the standard of water that's going to be produced. Obviously, stock and mining don't require potable water. Townships like Woomera do, but they, I think, have desal plants already. Is the plan to put potable water through the pipeline or something at a lower standard and then clean it up where needed?
Yep, I can answer that. So that was some of the work that we did early on in early stages of looking at Northern Water. We did consider a whole range of options. So some of those were whether we look at a purely sort of industrial quality of water. We even looked at whether we could use raw seawater to supply some of the industries. Ultimately, where we landed was to have a potable water supply. So the whole supply from Northern Water will be potable. Part of the reason for that is that one, it's not that much more expensive to go from industrial to potable water quality, but it just opens up a whole bunch more opportunities for supply. So you're not having to look at that sort of additional point of use treatment for particular customers. So it just creates a whole bunch more opportunities.
Thanks, Mike. Did someone over here have a question? And if so, stick your hand. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kiara Johnson. I represent the Far North Aboriginal Economic Collective, an Aboriginal corporation which represents Aboriginal businesses in the region. I'm also an Aboriginal business owner. The current IPP takes into consideration 20% weighting. Now, Aboriginal participation is included in that 20%, therefore it is very minimal. So if you're using the current IPP, it doesn't equate to the national Indigenous procurement policy, which is based on population data. We have quite a large Aboriginal population in this area, quite large unemployment, and a huge growing Aboriginal population of people under 15 years old. Therefore, when you talk about disadvantage, the definition of insanity is repeating the same behaviours, and that's, we haven't seen any change or any support with the Aboriginal business sector in this state. In fact, we're the only mainland state without a procurement policy. So, it's all well and good about the IPP, but I think we need to see much greater accountability on consortiums around Aboriginal business participation, because the evaluation stage is all well and good, but what happens after that?
Thanks, Kiara. Would one of the panellists like to respond to that?
Yeah, thank you for that. When I mentioned the IPP, I talked about stretch targets. And in the statements of intent that are going to be part of the EOI and are going to be responded to, what we're after there is for them to do analysis, and we've done some already, around what is possible. So what we're proposing at the moment in there is the minimum targets, and what we're asking for is stretch targets. So where a consortium proposes a huge stretch target, that is assessed very, very highly in the overall scheme of whether they get selected or not. So we haven't got minimum targets in there, and we are certainly pushing to maximise Aboriginal Indigenous businesses and resources in the project. We see this as one of the key outcomes of this project is there is that great ability to do so because of the population and where it's at. So we recognise that, and we certainly be making it aware the constructors and providers who come perhaps from interstate, not quite so aware. We are certainly going to make them aware of that as well, and that's through Tactic and others as well. So the 20% weighting, when you consider everything, is a very high weighting. However, within that 20%, they're going to, the Indigenous and Aboriginal input is a very high component of that as well. So it is noted, and it is something that is front and centre for us. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Probably just one thing to add is that we are looking at some early programs to upskill Aboriginal workforce, which will be rolling out over the next 12 months. And part of that's to also make it easier for some of these consortiums that are coming from out of state to find that ready, available sort of skilled workforce.
Thanks, Mark and Mike. Another question, I'll grab this one.
I'm Miles from Yokogawa. You mentioned 2 consortiums. Have the consortiums been appointed, and are you able to share the names of the consortiums?
Yeah, we're going through the LI phase at the moment. That will be shortlisting to 2. So those 2 shortlisted proponents will be known around August, July, August. So that's when they'll be advised to the market, and no doubt we'll have a similar process to this once they're announced.
Mark, just to confirm, the interested parties at the moment, is that available for people to be aware of or not?
We haven't made that available to everyone. We've got around about 40 companies that went through registration interest process and got selected, and from that the consortiums will be developed, and we're not expecting a whole lot of consortiums to be developed because this is such a mega project. Companies need to combine their skill sets and their resources and their capacity, actually financial capacity, to do the job. So we're expecting a handful of consortiums, that's all.
And so that'll be available a bit later in the year, those names?
That will be made available when it's approved by government in July, August.
Thanks, Mark. Any more questions?
Ross Sawers from Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners, but also a community fellow. Look, that's a really good presentation, very exciting stuff, and I'm really quite impressed by your community and industry engagement process, including working with schools and universities, etc., because I know that that can be quite a challenging process. Our project also is going to be a very long one. We'll be around, should we have a project, for 30 to 40 years. So we're also very keen at some point, as soon as we have more certainty about our project, to start working with schools and the uni hubs, etc. So this is a comment rather than a question, very keen to see how you progress down that line, if you're happy to share the information with us as we develop our project and our engagement process. Just a little bit of detail though, how do you actually intend to get into the schools to get that awareness going early? Because that's the future for all of us, really. And I'm really glad that you're a bit ahead of us, because you might develop the workforce that we'll need.
Excellent, that's part of the plan. Great question. We're actually working with the Education Department on the schools things. So there's the high school schools pathways, which Dan discussed, which is part of the workforce approach. We're also working with the Education Department around problem-based learning in primary schools as well. So within the department, they're actually looking at industry integration and vet within schools, and they are looking for projects who can work with the Education Department as case studies. So we're totally happy to share our links to that with you, and they'll be delighted to have a bit more diversity and what they can offer to the schools as well.
Thanks, Jo. Hands up for more questions. Down there, I'll grab that one, and I can see another one over here as well.
Robbie from Wagner's Composite Fibre Technologies. Just a quick one that I have. Building such significant infrastructure also comes along with a fairly significant carbon footprint. Has the Northern Water Group looked at the footprint of that, and will they be weighting a reduction in carbon footprint with the materials that they choose to use in their projects?
Alicia, you might want to chip in on this as well after my bit. We're certainly aware of the carbon footprint, and I think outside of carbon, I think we all recognise that development of significant infrastructure has an impact on the environment beyond carbon. So we are, I guess, doing a couple of things. So one of those is we'll be likely applying for Infrastructure Sustainability Council third-party rating, and as part of that, that'll put obligations on us to minimise the carbon footprint to the extent that we can from construction activities. We'll also look at offset opportunities as well, where we can't eliminate the embedded carbon in the infrastructure. To be honest, the main issue for desalination plants and also for moving the volumes of water that we're talking over long distance is the power supply. So be potentially the greatest source of carbon emissions, and as I've mentioned, we're committed to 100% renewable generation to power this facility. Not sure if you've got anything to add.
Yeah, I'll just add that just in terms of that assessment of that carbon footprint, that's the greenhouse gas emissions due to not only the construction of the project, but the embodied energies being assessed as part of the environmental impact assessment. So we've got a technical study on that. There'll be a chapter on that in the EIS. The EIS will be released a bit later in second half of 2024, so there'll be some more information in that document as well when it comes out, but it's definitely something very important for us to look at in terms of our environmental impacts. Now, there was a question.
Alicia. Hi, how you going, guys? Thank you very much for the presentation. It's fantastic. My name's Michael Strain. I represent three small Aboriginal businesses. I'm a Wiradjuri man myself from over on the East Coast, a proud Aboriginal man. My question is, what steps are being taken, so understanding the weighting and the IPP targets, but what steps are going to be taken to make sure that these larger consortiums actually hold true to what they say in their tenders? This is something that we do see on a regular basis where a consortium's awarded a project and they never make good on what they promised to do. So what steps are being taken to actually enforce that?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Yeah, a very good question. And I come from the private sector and in previous projects, and I do see how I guess they are somewhat mistakes are made in the procurement process, and it's drawing those connections between what's been promised and the procurement people that are actually placing the orders or seeking out the resources. So I've actually been working closely with the industry advocate around how we do that. How do we actually get those mechanisms in the contract to ensure that there is gateways and checks and balances through the contracting process to ensure that if it's going down the wrong route, we pick it up before the order is placed, because that's where it happens. It's by the time management that measuring these key KPIs are aware of it, it's usually too late. So what we are doing is trying to bring in those mechanisms very early and very transparent to deal with that issue. So yeah, it's something that we're aware of. We are developing that at the moment and putting it in the RFP documentation.
Alicia, we just have one on this side.
If I just wanted to add to that, I mean, that's something that I'm certainly well aware of and keen to jump on. So we haven't fully developed what the contractual mechanisms will look like to hold people's feet to the fire, but we don't want that happening on this project, and we'll do everything we can to make sure it doesn't.
I think it's probably fair to say we're happy to hear any advice you might have as well, based on previous experience, things that you could see that could have been done to prevent issues happening, and to hear about it.
And Tactic have been very helpful in that space. They've got some good learnings as well.
Go ahead.
First of all, my name is Peter Border. I'm an elected member locally here in Whyalla, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for the information that you've shared with us today. And my question is around housing and accommodation from two perspectives. One is 600 kilometres of pipe. I guess geographically, where are going to be the hubs? Is it camps? Is it temporary? And then also, how progressed are discussions in regards to solving that problem, which is nationwide and with all the projects in the region? I think the question on the tip of everyone's tongue is, where are these wonderful skilled workers going to be living?
Is that you, Mark, or Jeremy?
I can have a go and let others chip in. So we're well aware of the issue, and we're starting some work in that space. Not to say that we've got the full solution ready to go, but to the first part of your question, the actual construction workforce, there's two parts to it. There's one for the desalination plant. If it goes ahead down at Cape Hardy, that'll largely be camp-based. I think the more challenging one will be the pipeline route. There'll be 2 to 3 work fronts. That'll largely be a mobile camp, so every couple of weeks they'll likely have to shift and move as the work fronts develop. The bit that we are interested in is, and we're hopefully be doing a bit of work around that and releasing some tender documents first half of this year, is the post-construction workforce. So in particular for Northern Water, there'll be around 30 to 40 operational roles, and even before that there'll be a need for accommodation for Northern Water staff. So we'll, as I mentioned, likely be issuing a tender for some of that housing in the first half of this year.
I should also mention, and the hydrogen job guys can pick it up as well, they've obviously gone through their process recently around some of the housing needs for their project, and through the economic summit there were some announcements around some of the housing outcomes around Whyalla, but I'll let the hydrogen jobs guys talk to that when they're up on stage in a little bit.
Thanks, Jeremy and Mike. We've got probably time for about 2 more questions. My roving mic.
Andrew here from RDA Far North. You've spoken a lot about the construction, but there's lots of support needed for those projects like car hire, servicing, PPE tools and equipment. Are all these things being included in the thought process?
Dan, is that one for you?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. I guess there's a whole range of enabling support and supply requirements for the project, and we have sort of considered those broadly, but also in the context of all of the investment in the region as well. So not just for Northern Water, because I think that's important. Ultimately, some of the services you mentioned there will be procured through the major contract, through the consortiums, but there will be some that will be procured and required, direct for the project team as well. So I think in Mark's talk, mentioned some of those components that are definitely important enablers and critical for the project. So among tactics networks as well, a number of those types of suppliers are members and are certainly engaging in the project awareness stages to date. But yeah, absolutely a key element that we are considering. Mike, did you want to add?
Probably just one other thing to add. So our default is to look for opportunities for organisations and companies that do work in the region. So whether it's the embroidery of these shirts or printing, our first place we look is to work with Tactic and see whether we can procure locally as our first option before we look elsewhere.
Thanks, Dan and Mike. And just one last question. Obviously will be plenty of time for questions in the break as well, but this will be our last formal question.
Yeah, Richard from Clay Mineral Sales. Just one to do with the pipe is, I think you mentioned might have been some above ground and some in the ground. If someone could just clarify what that sort of meant. And also just the staging of the project, like rough start dates. Obviously you've got the desal plant, the hydrogen plant, all the pipe works. Are you staging that, or is it all together, or what sort of, can we get some rough timelines of what the project entails?
Okay, for the pipeline, the reference design is that the pipeline is buried, so underground. We do understand that there is areas of cultural significance where we may need to go above ground, and also there may be areas where, for reasons of geotechnical reasons, it might be more effective to go above ground, but predominantly it will be a below ground pipeline. So hopefully that's answered the first question. The second question is in 2026 is when the D&C and O&M contracts will be released. They will need to be designed first, and so construction is likely to lag about 6 months after that, and will take the full 2 years of construction to late 2028, and the handover to the operators in 2029. And I think that dovetails quite well with the hydrogen projects, which plan to be constructed before we commence our construction. Pipeline timing, the pipeline's, as you can imagine, it's very long, it's on the critical path, so the pipeline construction, as soon as, we're not sure yet as to whether we need to purchase pipe ahead of the D&C contract, just to get some pipe ready, or whether the program is such that we can get the consortiums to do that. But I would imagine the construction would be, in the pipeline, would be within the first 6 months of the award.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks to the panel for being up here today. So we're going to have a break now for morning tea, so about half an hour. We'll come back about 11:15. Project team will be available. The opposite hydrogen jobs plan people are here as well. Talk to each other, talk to us, have a cup of tea. We'll see you about half an hour, about 11:15.
So we're going to kick off our next session, which is all about the Hydrogen Jobs Plan. As mentioned before, my name is Maria Costi. I work in the Office of Hydrogen Power SA as the Director of Engagement and Communications. It's good to see some familiar faces from our first briefing. It was just over 2 months ago we were here since our first briefing, where we came and introduced the Hydrogen Jobs Plan project and our preferred project partners. We committed to you then we would return with our project partners to provide you with a project update now that we are 4 months into the ECI phase. In this session, you will hear from Sam Crafter, Chief Executive of the Office of Hydrogen Power SA, who is responsible for overseeing the delivery and design, the other way around, design and delivery of our world-leading hydrogen facility here in Whyalla. You also hear from our preferred project partners, ADCO Australia BOC Consortium, Epic Energy, and the newest addition to the project team, Electronet. We'll formally end the session with a Q&A, and then we'll go into ICN's presentation. So I would like to now introduce Sam Crafter, Chief Executive of the Office of Hydrogen Power SA.
Just about did a Joe Biden there, tripping up the stairs. Okay. Thanks very much, everyone, for having us. Just like to reiterate what the team said this morning. We very much appreciate your time. We understand that you have lots of other valuable things that you could be investing your time in, so we do very much appreciate you investing it with us this morning. So my job this morning is really just to give a bit of an update on some of the recent developments in the project. A very quick recap for anyone that wasn't here the first time around, where we sort of did more of the introductory stuff around the Hydrogen Jobs Plan, and then hand over to the teams that are working on it to talk through in a bit more detail some of the progress and the thinking about how the work might break down for our project delivery. So, very quick recap. Why are we here? It's because of that transition we've been on that Jeremy touched on, that 0 to 100% renewables. And the reality is we've got a pipeline of renewable energy in South Australia that will remain locked up unless we can find a way to use that energy to do something more with than just power generation in South Australia and even on the eastern seaboard of Australia. So that's where the concept of hydrogen comes in. Can we use that power, use that excess power, bring on more of the development of the renewables, turn that into hydrogen, and then use that hydrogen to make products? I guess the summary, to sort of tie it together with where Jeremy started this morning, the way the Premier's been talking about this opportunity for the region, the Upper Spencer Gulf, and for South Australia more broadly is, the world needs copper, copper needs water. That's what we talked about this morning, the Northern Water Project, and that's how the government's looking to try and unlock that copper resource. The other thing the world needs a lot of and is moving very quickly towards is steel, but decarbonised steel. So Germany, Japan, Korea are all actively looking to see how they can meet their emissions targets but continue their steel manufacturing, because we're going to need steel for a long, long time as we continue to grow our economy globally. To get decarbonised steel, one of the key components is going to be hydrogen. And that's where the Hydrogen Jobs Plan fits in from a South Australian perspective. It's not the only thing, and it's not going to provide us green steel in the back of just one facility that's being built, but it's building something at scale that hasn't been built in the world before, that's going to chart a path to see that technology become more widely used and adopted here in South Australia, here in the Upper Spencer Gulf, with other projects that are happening, which will then open up the scale of hydrogen you need to really make that happen. So I guess just to paint the picture again around that, the renewable resources, those green areas, you can see the growth in the renewables and what those projects look like. You can see the intensity with which there is up and around this part of the world, and the potential other zones that are there as well. Overlaid with that is the magnetite resource that I was talking about, that we have around Whyalla, we have on the Eyre Peninsula, and we have in the Braemar region, sort of north of Port Pirie there as well. From a steel-making perspective, that's what makes this a very exciting opportunity. The ore that we have, Jeremy touched on, but is the sort of ore that's easier for direct reduction to make into things like hot briquetted iron that can then be exported. Doesn't mean that there won't be hydrogen use for ammonia, and we're using hydrogen for power generation for the explicit need we have in South Australia for more power we can turn on and off, more dispatchable power to match in with this renewable resource, so that we can dial up and down that renewable resource. But when we have the gaps, we've got a renewable form of dispatchable generation, which in itself is something that's not done at scale around the world either. So to what we're doing, I think this won't be unfamiliar to many of you. We touched on this last time. The 250 megawatt electrolyser, 200 megawatt hydrogen power plant, the storage facility located in Whyalla. Operation by early 26, we've touched on this as well. It is ambitious, it's deliberately ambitious. If we can build it here by 2026, which is what we're doing, then we'll be able to have this part of the world and South Australia more broadly as the place in which we hope to establish the industry, potential supply chains, ongoing maintenance work, so that when Western Australia and Queensland and New South Wales start to build projects towards the end of the decade, they can be serviced from here. There's a real opportunity to establish that here. If we were to be after those places, it's always a lot harder to drag people in once they're already established in those industrial centres in the east and west. So I've got a quick video to show you. So this is based on our current basis of design, and it sort of shows you the location. I think it's 1.5 minutes, won't be too long, and then we'll keep moving. Okay. So clearly from our presentations, the first industry that's benefiting from all this is the computer-generated graphic industry, because we've all got fancy videos. But it is important. It is based, literally up to last week, we updated the design based around where we're going. So we're trying to provide as true a representation of what's there. Obviously, we'll touch on the fact we've got 2 storage solutions in the mix at the moment. So that was one that was demonstrated there. The other one's a pipeline solution that the EPIC guys will talk you through as well. So just to recap as well on where we're at in our process. So we've got early contractor involvement underway. That's been happening since October. It's a matter of working really closely amongst the teams to do all the early engineering work, to engage in some of the commercial conversations, to look at some of the long lead items that we need to work on procuring. But we're going through that process to get us to that sort of final design and contracting phase that we're looking to have up and running really sort of towards the first part of, end of quarter 2, to be able to be ready by the end of this year to start our construction work. So that's the phase we're in. It means that today, when we're talking, we're not going to have all the answers that you might want down to the last package and how they're split up and how they're broken out. What the teams have done is their best effort at this point in time to be able to give you the sort of things that they'll be looking to go to market with. Obviously, it's not the only conversation we're having. So as the definition comes, we will keep coming out and working with industry, local industry, around how we can turn our procurement into things that you can engage in directly. So another sort of quick summary, we've got our 2 preferred development partners. We had a procurement, if you like, we're sort of through that phase that Northern Water are doing. Obviously there's a difference in scale and things like that and project structure, but the successful parties that we've taken through are ATCO and BOC. So the ATCO BOC portion is around an end-to-end solution with on-site storage, the electrolyzers and the hydrogen production, the hydrogen power generation facility. EPIC is involved as a dual-purpose storage and transmission of hydrogen solution. So we are doing a competitive element of this ECI, if you like, where we're assessing the different ways in which you can store hydrogen. So that's something that's ongoing through our process and through this ECI phase. So I'm just going to whip through now a couple of things that have happened recently in the last week. Some of them announced over the weekend while we were on the Economic Summit with the Premier and other ministers. So in terms of the power generation, we've announced our preferred supplier is GE Vernova. So they have put forward a proposal that can provide the 100% hydrogen turbines that we sought. So that's very exciting. I think that when we first went to market, there was a lot of scepticism about the ability for the industry to respond. The government very much took the same attitude it took into the big battery procurement, which was, well, if we put it out there and we challenge the market, we think the market will respond. We think the market's ready to try and come to some of the new technology requirements that are needed, and if government's prepared to invest in that and make that a priority. And that's what we've seen, which is very exciting. So obviously we're going through the contracting phase to finalise all of that with them, but it's exciting for us to have them involved. It's exciting in all the work we've done around procurement to have so much interest globally from big players who want to be a part of the project. We are working with Electronet. There's a session that the team are going to talk about that there as well, but that's come on. We've formalised that arrangement and they're going to be building and then owning and operating, maintaining the high voltage connections. So there's some more detail to come in that there, but I guess it's another sign of the work that we're progressing on. We've got a lot of multiple conversations running around electricity, water, as well as the actual plant design and development pieces. In terms of, this was one that you can see the picture from the weekend. So we are in conversations with GFG. So they have an ambitious plan around their transition. They've got an electric arc furnace commitment that will require eventually a direct reduction plant. What they're working through is how do they fuel that direct reduction plant, and so that's where they've started a conversation with us around the ability to use some hydrogen. I think the way the Premier talked about it on the weekend was that, you know, we're building the jobs facility was really around the power generation piece with an idea that the at-scale hydrogen would generate interest from industry. What we've seen is that interest has accelerated and that there's a pathway potentially for some of that hydrogen to be used in this industrial sense, and we're getting to the bottom and investigating that with them now. It would obviously be very exciting if we could start to play a role in that decarbonisation or help accelerate that. That's the piece of work that we're undertaking with them next to get to the bottom of that and look at all the commercial elements of that. Worker accommodation is the other thing that's very important. It's already come up today. It's very important for our project. It's important for other projects that are happening in the region. I guess the philosophy that we're adopting here is that we, as best as possible, need to provide some legacy benefits to Whyalla around accommodation. It's not really much help if we come in and lock away any available accommodation and everyone else has to struggle, be it for tourism, general accommodation, etc. So that's why we've started on a couple of the projects that were announced on the weekend. But absolutely, we will need some temporary worker accommodation to deliver this. Where we're talking about a peak of around 1,000 workers through that period of construction over the sort of 2 years from the middle of this year onwards, or sort of peaking in the middle of next year. So, we're actually actively looking at sites. We're doing work with the council. We're starting some conversation with key stakeholders around the location for that as well. So it's not like we're pretending 82 cabins is going to cover the workforce requirements at all. But what we have done is we've committed to using those 32 cabins at Discovery Parks that the government directly has, because we need accommodation and we want that to be a legacy that after we've left will stay. We're building them to a certain spec. They're going to be a quality product that we think will be a good thing for people to use. And then our consortium partners are working with Bentley's, and the government's involved in facilitating and coordinating around the land to look at Cloden Reserve and the ability to initially build 50 cabins there, potentially more if that's where we end up with the consortium's requirements as well. So that's exciting. It's about bringing new accommodation rather than trying to sort of further logjam some of the issues that we have in Whyalla. Our office is up and running, so that was officially launched. We've actually had the office here for a little while. We've had people in and out sporadically. We're here every week now, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. As Joe talked about, it probably won't just be us. There'll be other people from government. Maybe even, I think, Tactic might be able to use it as a base in Whyalla periodically as they're coming through. It's very much about having, I guess, the teams that are working in our project delivery space, having a base here in Whyalla. But we definitely will have the team rotating through, and we're looking to bring on some local employment through the course of the year as well. It'll be, like it says there, Tuesday to Thursday, 10 till 3 to get us going, and as we need to expand that, we will. It's just at Westlands, where the old Whyalla news place used to be. So just in terms of high-level schedules, I guess the ECI phase we've talked about, that's where we're at. The bright green there sort of highlights where we're working through at the moment. If you then look at the other element on there, the civil works and the construction piece, which is sort of where we're going to get to talking about with the partners, we're really talking about the back end of this year for some of that, and then through the course of that next 18 months after that for the construction work coming online as well. So there's the QR code that's been talked about. There'll be a session around ICN that Bettina's going to walk us through. So I think that pretty much does me, and I'll pass it over to Maria again. Sorry. Yep, thanks.
Thanks, Sam. So now I want to introduce two representatives from our preferred project partners, ADCO Australia and BOC. So this is Jamie Innes and Penny Robinson, if you want to head up as well. Yeah. Jamie is responsible for the production and delivery of industrial gases to thousands of customers daily. Jamie is also supporting the emerging sectors, including clean energy, defence and manufacturing, as well as building the skills to support the future workforce needs in South Australia. Jamie is BOC's local project sponsor for our Hydrogen Jobs Plan. Penny is the procurement lead for ADCO and BOC. She's an advocate for sustainable and transparent supply chain methodologies. Please welcome Jamie and Penny.
So thank you very much for having us, and thanks for taking the time out of your busy days to be here and listen to us as well. So I won't go over too much of the detail that Sam's already covered off, but I suppose the exciting piece for ATCO and BOC is we have responsibility for the design of the world's biggest hydrogen power generation plant, which is pretty cool to say it's in South Australia. From a project delivery phase, the detailed project and engineering design will be part of what we're working through, as well as the procurement of long lead times, finalising contracting agreements and cost estimations over the coming weeks and months. ATCO and BOC's partnership is really positive and really gels well in the fact that ATCO for the power generation and BOC for the hydrogen production. I'll give you a bit of insight for those who do and don't know around BOC and where we are and what we do. So from a global perspective, we're part of the Lindy PLC group, but more locally we've been known for many years around BOC. There's a bit of detail around what we look like nationally, but being based in South Australia, I probably prefer to talk about South Australia than nationally. Where it says 40,000 gas cylinders per day, we do 2,000 locally out of our Torrensville plant in Adelaide. And when we talk about plants in this region, we have 3 oxygen plants that are in Olympic Dam, so just up the road. I say just up the road, just a bit further up the road than where we are here. As well as we have the ASU plant that sits on GFG Liberty site in Whyalla here, as well as a local retail outlet that we've been here for a number of years. If I talk about our presence, and one of the real exciting things for us this year is actually 75 years in Whyalla. So having a presence in Whyalla, so whether that's from the McBride Terrace site that you can see on the screen there, where we had an oxygen plant, to now the ASU, or air separation unit, that sits on the Liberty site, that we pull off oxygen for medical and hospitals branches, as well as argon for shielding and gases, and nitrogen as well off that plant, to secure all the gas needs out in South Australia, but also export into the Northern Territory and into the eastern states. I think the last piece of that is, as you would know, that and for those driving around, as you come out the airport, you'll see that we've got a big presence there from a new site that we reinvested only a few years ago, and probably our commitment around wanting to be here for long term, and that's why it's really exciting to be part of this project as we move forward. I'll hand over to Penny.
Thanks, Jamie. Hi, everyone. So I'll just go through a little bit of history about ATCO as well, so you can get to know us. We have been in Australia now for over 60 years, still predominantly a family-owned business. The daughter of the founder of ATCO is still our CEO, which is really exciting for us. And she actually went to school here in SA, so she's very passionate about us putting some roots down more strongly here. So we're all pretty passionate about seeing this get delivered successfully with everyone. Now, we currently own we co-own the Osborne Power Plant, which uses the GE gas turbines. So we're very familiar with the power generation aspects of this project, and it's exciting to see the evolution of that technology as we move to 100% hydrogen capability. So I'll just move on and talk about our potential work packages that we have for you. Thank you. So we will be looking at a breadth of supply chain opportunities, and something that we're all particularly passionate about, both at OPSA and ABC, is supporting local. We understand that by having local involvement is a key driver for our ultimate success on this project. So we're really excited by the number of participants here today. We're looking forward to talking to you after this presentation, hearing more about your businesses and what you do, whilst you look at these potential work packages that we have up here. Obviously, this is only the key work packages that we're looking at the moment. There's going to be a number of opportunities that arrive. As Sam mentioned, we're going through the detailed design. As we progress and evolve that design, there'll be more supply chain opportunities that come out of that as well. So even if your business provides services or supplies that aren't listed here, please come talk to us. We'd love to hear about you and the services and products that you offer. Particularly if you're Whyalla based, Upper Spencer Gulf, SA in general, we're very excited to get to know you and find out about your capabilities and how we can partner together going forward. So as Sam mentioned, we're looking at some long lead time equipment procurement. You will start to see some correspondence from us later in the year around that, working with the ICN team. So we highly encourage you. We've got our project profiles up there now. Bettina will walk you through how to get involved there. Please go register your interest for project updates and for EOI. So when we start going to approach the market for particular packages, you'll be the first to know. So really important that you do register as early as possible so you can start subscribing to those project updates. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jamie and Penny. Up next, we have Epic Energy. Vincent Kane. He is our project director of Epic Energy Whyall's hydrogen pipeline. Vincent's got over, sorry if I'm cutting out, I can hear myself going in and out. Vincent has over 20 years experience in the energy, mining, construction and power generation industries. Vincent has been responsible for the delivery of major projects such as the Newman Power Station in Western Australia, Thomson Power Station in Queensland and Owen Springs Power Station in Northern Territory. Welcome, Vincent.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction, and thanks everyone for their time today. I'll be brief, but hopefully there'll be enough information that we give to fill you with knowledge in how you can assist us in delivery of the project. So a little bit, Epic Energy is one of Australia's most trusted energy infrastructure companies. So we're one of your energy partners. We currently have the MAPS pipelines, the Moomba to Adelaide pipeline, and we also deliver natural gas across here to Whyalla as well. So it's a key player in the sector as such. So for more than 50 years, we've played that role. We're proudly based in Adelaide, where we employ over 80 staff. That's and we have 30 field staff as well. So that 10 in Adelaide that service the southeast, and 20 people who also go throughout the Moomba pipeline from between Moomba and Peterborough. So our main asset that we use is the Moomba to Adelaide pipeline, and also we are heavily involved in renewable space, where we have wind turbine power stations in Victoria and a couple of renewable plants, a solar farm in Manama, and also we're distributing a BESS project at the moment. So a bit about the Whyalla hydrogen pipeline, which is why we're all here. So as part of the government's hydrogen jobs plan, EPIC's working with them to progress the engineering and approvals process for the storage and transmission hydrogen pipeline. So the pipeline will store hydrogen produced at the site and have the capacity to store up to 100 tonnes to be used for the power station or in the future for industries around Whyalla. So the key components of our proposal are the compressor station, which will be located at the site 1, and that'll be adjacent to the hydrolysers and the power station itself, and that will compress the hydrogen into the main pipeline. So this pipeline is a buried pipeline, and it's designed to transport the hydrogen as well as store it. It'll be approximately 45 kilometres long and a diameter 900 millimetre diameter pipe. So it's quite unique in its way, and it'll actually be a loop pipeline that'll go around towards Port Bonython and back to the site. So it's multi-purpose. The end of the line valving station will be near Fitzgerald Bay Road in Port Bonython. So it's helping future-proof the hydrogen facility. So we're committed to meeting Australia's energy, and we're very excited in where this project will lead us in the future, building on what we've done in the past and how we see the renewable space. So the opportunities. So we've had a look at what opportunities there are for local businesses to engage with us for the future and during the project. So we've broken it down into sort of several areas. The first of the areas being civil laydown and road maintenance. So that's, with a pipeline, obviously you have to degrub the area as such, and then we'll trench, string out the pipe, and then lay it in, then rehabilitate the area. So the main thing is our footprint is quite small in a way, because we rehabilitate so you don't notice where we've been, and you would notice that from where our current pipeline runs. So craneage is a big part of it, compressor and generator hire, and provision of road maintenance services. So obviously with the amount of pipeline, we'll have to obviously block off roads, etc. But we'll work with local people to ensure there's no disruption. Traffic management being a big part of that, and also just local transport to get people from Whyalla out to site and back, because we're talking a reasonable workforce. So we have people actually at site 1, and we'll have people out in the field as well. So there's several opportunities in regards to that, and we're utilising 2 main EPC contractors. So they're coming to Whyalla as well to engage with local people and how they can best utilise your skills to help deliver the best solution for the overall project. So again, there'll be a lot of light vehicles and trucks, bulk fuel supply, and just general freight. So obviously there'll be gear out there that will need transport back, waste, etc. So that's a big one. The waste management. A lot of the waste will be reusable, so whether that's pallets, plastics, or just transport of soil to and from the site. So we're looking for collection, transportation, treatment, recycling, but also making sure that best practice and accountable waste management is utilised. So we're just aligning ourselves with the government's strategic plan in regards to that and how best to utilise it. There's obviously, they'll break down the work packages in regards to what it can actually be supplied or manufactured here locally in Whyalla. So there's obviously opportunities there, mainly around the facility in regards to pipe spooling and fabrication. There'll be concrete works around the site, whilst we'll be we plan on using the compressors on steel pilings. There'll be still concrete footings around it for maintenance, etc. Structural steel, quarry materials, sand, bulk fuel obviously, and food beverages. We shouldn't ignore that. So look us up. We're here, we're a local SA company. We're looking to further our footprint here in Whyalla that we already have, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you, Vincent. We'll be hearing from Electronet next. John Mazarad and Tristan Streven. John is a senior project manager for Electronet. John has been with Electronet for 6 years, and the last 4 years has focused on the delivery of the EP Link, the new transmission line from Whyalla to Port Lincoln. Joining John today is Tristan, who's the Senior Procurement and Contracts Manager. Tristan brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the project with background in resources and energy sectors. Over to you.
Thank you very much. All right. I'll say it again. Once again, thanks to everybody for coming out today and taking time out of your days. It's really important to us that we are able to engage directly with local industry wherever possible. So it's a fantastic first step. Today I'll just run you through quickly a little bit of background about who Electronet is, what our involvement is in the Hydrogen Jobs Plan project, and go into a little bit of detail about our contracting strategy and where we're at so far. So Electronet, for those who don't know, we fit in the energy supply chain in the HV space. So generally, it's about transmitting electricity over long distances and large volumes. So we sit between generation and distribution, which is managed by SA Power Networks, but we also connect large customers, so large heavy loads like industrial loads that you may see here in Whyalla, and hence it will lead into our involvement in Hydrogen Jobs Plan. We have over 100 substations around SA and 6,000 kilometres of transmission line. We connect 40 plus renewable generators, and all of this is contributing to our vision of energising South Australia's clean energy future. So our involvement in Hydrogen Jobs Plan, we've been engaged with OPSA over the last 18 months to work through the process of connecting the world's largest hydrogen, well, not power station, but hydrogen production facility and power station into the national electricity market. I think Sam gave a pretty good summary of what that all means earlier, so I won't repeat it. But for us, what it means is the development of 2 greenfield substations and approximately 9 kilometres of transmission line. We've also got a little bit of remote end work, we call it, at other substations to tie that in our telecommunications and substation sites. Quick map here, just a little overview of the substation works. The couple of pink boxes there at Kultana East and Rupina substation. Rupina substation will be located down at the facility that you've seen in the video earlier, and the transmission lines connecting back into our network. I wanted to just touch on the fact that the project works that we're going to be participating in, as well as the rest of Hydrogen Jobs Plan, is all on Bungala country. Electronet have worked really closely with Bungala over the last few years with EP Link and other projects, and the relationship that we've formed has been really invaluable to the success of the project. So we just want to recognise that OPSA, Electronet and the other partners are all working with Bungala to the success of this project. I'll hand over to Tristan to just go through some detail about the procurement packages.
Cheers, John. Morning, everyone. So we're going to be running a select request for tender process. We have 5 preferred tenderers, preferred partners that we will be going to. The names are there: Consolidated Power Projects, Downer Utilities, Enovin, RJE Global and Ventia. So these are the companies that we will be passing your details onto when we get them through the RCN portal, and encouraging you to engage with them as well. Yeah, thanks. So obviously we're encouraging our partners to engage with local suppliers, and we're encouraging you guys to register your interest on RCN. There's the code that you can get in, the QR code. Please go through there. It'll go through to a unique instance of Electronet on the RCN. So we're keen to obviously get your feedback and your expressions of interest there. We would like, if possible, for you to get your information onto the RCN before the 8th of March, because our intention is shortly after we've issued the tender, we want to be able to issue a list of interested suppliers to our preferred tenderers. So just from a timeline perspective, we're issuing on the 7th of March the select request for tender. Tender's closing on the 2nd of May. We've got the planned contract award date on the 15th of August, and you can see at the bottom there the slide. That's where we are today. There's quite a bit of time for you to engage with these tenderers, because during the tender phase they'll probably be looking through the details, looking for potential suppliers. But as we go into evaluation, even as we go into construction, there should be opportunities for your companies to work with our preferred tenderers. But we do encourage you just to engage as early as possible. Yep, so the QR code's up there. Please take some photos of that, and it'll take you straight through to the Electronet side of the RCN portal. And I think we're going to hear a little bit more about the RCN system in a moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John and Tristan. So that brings us to the end of the Hydrogen Jobs Plan presentation, but I'm going to invite the presenters up to the front so we can open the floor for questions. I'll have some roving mics around the place, so please make your way up. Do we have any questions for the presenters at the front? I can't really see, and I've got glasses on as well. No? Well, that's good, I guess. We'll be here with you networking, so please, if you don't feel comfortable asking questions here, come and see the guys directly, one-on-one, and have that conversation. So I will, Sam, any closing words? No? Sick of hearing from us? Probably. We'll be here for the next hour and a half at least. So I'll pass over to Jo.
Thanks, Maria. You might have picked up a common theme coming through a lot of our presentations, and that's the ICN being the portal for connection to work packages. So we've now got Bettina, who's from the ICN, who's going to provide a bit of information for people in the room to know what kinds of things do contractors or head contractors look for when looking to engage local supply, and what can you provide on that profile which will help your business to be identified and to be selected? So thanks, Bettina.
Thank you, Jo, and thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. I'm here today actually on behalf of David Royal. He's unwell, but we expect him to be back on deck next week, but he is ICN South Australia's lead for these projects. I've been managing the ICN office in South Australia since 2015, and it's always lovely to be here in Whyalla. We've been partnering with GMUSG, now Tactic, for many years. Quick show of hands. We've got 5 portals for Hydrogen Jobs Plan and Northern Water Project on ICN at the moment. Who in the room has submitted an EOI against at least one of those? Okay, good. A little bit less than I was hoping to see, but still good. So ICN, we're a national network of industry specialists. We've got an office in every state and territory in Australia, and this year we are celebrating 40 years of ICN. We were established to help local win, and that's still our core reason for being today. Main platform is ICN Gateway, so 80,000 of you, of the local suppliers have registered on there. We get a lot of online supplier searches running through ICN Gateway, and we also connect the demand side, the buyers, to you, the suppliers. And in the last or previous financial year, 2021-22, we facilitated $2.75 billion worth of contract wins through ICN Gateway. We connect you to project opportunities in, I guess, 4 distinct ways. The first one, the obvious one, is submitting a work package against, submitting an expression of interest against a work package on ICN. The second one, which is not visible, is behind the scenes searches. So sometimes when things are on bid stage, or sometimes when there are other commercial in confidence considerations, or for smaller projects, for example, we'll just run a search behind the scenes, and we rely on you to fill in the right kind of keywords so you come up in a search. So have a think about what keywords your buyer might use to look for you, and make sure those keywords are on your profile somewhere. And then also the ICN team, we have decades of experience in working with you. We've been to many of your sites. We always welcome opportunities to visit you and have that one-on-one discussion around your business aspirations and your business capabilities as well. And then buyers also use ICN Gateway to search for you. For that, so for the other 2 options of basic free ICN profiles, all you need, but for buyers to find you, you need to have one of the paid subscription options, but they start at only at $156 a year, so it's not very expensive. And then also industry briefings is another way that we connect you with buyers. So for this industry briefing, for example, we sent a mail out to a targeted list of companies. We've got an industry briefing for another project in bid stage that's happening across the country in the defence sector, and that one's on the next Friday, the 8th of March. And if you have subscribed to the ICN South Australia newsletter, you would have received that invitation yesterday. That's a bit of a snapshot of the projects just in South Australia for ICN. And for Hydrogen Jobs Plan, we haven't actually even put the 3 ECI contractors on that list yet. Apologies, guys. So there's a lot happening in the defence sector, in construction, in infrastructure, solar and other renewable energy projects, mining, etc. But today we are here to talk about the Hydrogen Jobs Plan and also the Northern Water Project. The process around submitting an expression of interest. So ICN lists projects at different stages, and it's always useful to just have a look on the project portal to see what stage the project is at. So sometimes we'll list a project portal when the project's in bid stage, and some bidders choose to use ICN, other bidders might choose not to publish it on ICN Gateway, but to ask us to do that inquiry work behind the scenes. And still others might already have really good local supply chains and decide not to use ICN as well. When we receive approval to publish a project portal, and sometimes the project's already passed the final investment decision as well. So when we receive that approval, we'll publish it because we want you, the local suppliers, to have that opportunity to connect with the project as early as possible. You have an opportunity to look at the scope of work and the project and update your capability information in your ICN Gateway dashboard, add any bespoke question, responses to bespoke questions that are associated with the work package, and then submit that EOI. We used to then close the work package and send the reports. What we find is happening now is we're working with a lot of projects that are have very long time frames. So, for example, for Electronet, your project portal is only open for a very short time, very targeted, and we'll send you the report at the end of that time frame. But for others, like BOC, for example, BOC, ADCO, EPIC, we've had your portals open for a while, and we've been submitting those reports relatively regularly. Northern Water project as well, they're getting regular updates. So we send those reports to the project owner. How do we send the reports? It's an Excel spreadsheet. And this is usually an aha moment for those companies that don't know that. That means there's one cell for your summary, one cell for your description, one cell for all your facilities and services. So have a think about what the buyer is actually looking for, and make sure your first few words stand out and tick that box for them. They are, for most work packages, we receive around 30 expressions of interest. But it's the first stage of the tender process. They're going to shortlist probably down to 5 contractors or so, and then there's only one winner at the end of it. How are you going to stand out so you get through that whole process? The expression of interest stage, get shortlisted, and then get to submit a tender, and then win the tender as well. Yep, so that's how they will do that evaluation, and they are very busy people, and they have teams of people as well, and sometimes they'll split the work package response questions into different parts. So, for example, for some of our work packages with more complex questionnaires, say Women's and Children's Hospital or the BHP projects, they'll split those questions, and different team members are assessing different aspects before they shortlist the process. And then they award the tender, they let us know, we can then publish that information and share it with you so that you see who's the next tier, who's won that particular package, and then you chase the money and you look for those opportunities down the supply chain. So I sort of spoke a bit about tiers in the supply chain. So who is actually your customer? Is your customer the head contractor, or is your customer the next tier down, or the next tier down, or the next tier down? So where exactly does your business fit in the supply chain? At the higher tier levels, the tender processes are quite onerous and actually quite expensive. So depending on the size of your business in terms of employee numbers, in terms of turnover, you might decide you're not going to chase it at the higher level. The way we're doing things at ICN is we still encourage you to submit your expression of interest at the early stage. And the reason for that is that that information is used by the head contractor and to flow down, and the Hydrogen Jobs Plan, which is owned by government, is looking at that information as well when it looks at how much local content is possible. So you're encouraged to submit your information regardless of the tier. For the higher level tender processes, you'll need to submit something like your capability statement. If you don't have one of those readily available, ICN has automated the process for you for one of our paid subscription options, $600, or the $1,480. You can select, you can automatically just select which fields in your profile are included and hit print, and it looks pretty impressive. And if you're in the defence sector, there's a quad chart option as well. Defence likes everything on one page. And we use a bit of AI, artificial intelligence, to compare your profile to other similar profiles and identify what is your unique value proposition and pre-populate those fields. And then you have the ability to tailor that. So when you decide to submit an expression of interest, I said I encourage you to submit an expression of interest against everything. However, do have a think about go, no go. Not everything suits your capabilities. Not everything makes sense for you to chase. And the scattergun approach is not necessarily going to be your best option for getting through to the final stage, because you won't have enough time and energy and effort. You won't be able to put in the effort required to make it to that shortlist and to go through the whole tender process. So make those decisions, go, no go. Include your value proposition. Why should the buyer choose you rather than somebody else? Your track record. And for these projects that you've heard from today, your track record in the Upper Spencer Gulf region is important to these project owners. What is a gain creator? A gain creator is what does the project need and what else can you give them for virtually no extra cost? A gain creator, for example, I think we've heard a question around the net zero challenge opportunity. So if you supply goods and services that are carbon neutral, that would be a gain creator for them. Or what's a pain reliever? And a pain reliever is they want to engage with local companies, make it as easy as possible for them to engage with local companies. I'm thinking of a project that was in a different region in South Australia, and that particular project owner had a high target on involving local companies. The local companies needed to have a particular accreditation. They held their hand through the process and helped them get these accreditations, but there were quite a few local companies that chose not to even meet them halfway and then didn't get any work. So meet them halfway. There's a lot of support that we're looking at to help you meet the needs of these projects, but make it easy as well. And then the opportunity to tailor your company profile to the particular opportunity that you are targeting. I've added there a tender is a competition with only one winner, so invest the time to create a compelling submission. But at lower tiers in the supply chain, there's not just one winner. And if you're at that level, chase the money, chase all the opportunities. There is some additional support available for you. So ICEA nationally, we've partnered with a range of organisations to make it easier for you to win work. One of those is BidRight, and Nigel Dennis, the Chief Executive, was on a webinar with me earlier this week talking about their new artificial intelligence service that they have available that makes it easy to sift through the tender to find out exactly what the buyer wants and then to match that up with your unique value proposition and to start drafting the tender response documents for you. So saving you quite a bit of money in the tender and proposal process. Another company is 25/8, helping you to develop a good business pitch and helping you with some of your marketing. Another one's Waterfield Consulting, and that's around strategic planning. The landscape's changing. You want to meet these new challenges and opportunities, so strategic planning becomes important. And then Tactic, of course, as your regional partner, is very important as well, and they can connect you to others in the region that can help you with marketing and tenders, etc. And another one that we have that I've omitted on that slide is a company called Climate Clever, and they have an online platform where you can start at least tracking and monitoring your greenhouse gas emissions, and they've got some recommendations on how to reduce those as well. So Hydrogen Jobs Plan. So these are 3 of the 5 portals, and the QR code is the 4th. That's the main Hydrogen Jobs Plan portal, and the integrated pipeline hydrogen storage with Epic Energy, the hydrogen power station electrolyzers and storage facility with ATCO and BOC, and the transmission and connection with Electronet. Those are all linked to the main project, so you'll see them under the Associated Opportunities tab. At this stage, all of those only have one work package listed, and watch this space for more. So the questionnaire is not onerous. It's actually quite quick to fill in. I've put it there. It's probably not that easy to see, but the basic questions are, what products or services would you actually like to supply? They've made some assumptions around what's available in the region, but they don't know what they don't know. So let them know what you actually want to supply and your track record in supplying that in this region. Then we had a question earlier around Indigenous businesses. All these project portals are asking whether you're an Indigenous-owned business or not, because that is important to them to engage with Indigenous businesses. And then which region is your business located in, with a bit of a particular focus around the Upper Spencer Gulf region. The Northern Water Project has an extra question, and that's why I've just popped that there on the right-hand side. And that one is, what support do you need to connect with this project? And that is particularly useful for us, for Tactic, for the RDA, so we can, and Oz Industry, I know Jeremy Khan's in the room as well, so we can start building some of those support programs as needed. There we go, key takeaways. So your key takeaways. First, create your free ICN Gateway profile. Then search for projects, set up notifications in your dashboard. Set up notifications also under the list of capabilities. You can search, for example, if you're a fencing contractor, you can search for fencing and then tick the box there, so you get those work alerts that are relevant to your capabilities. Submit your expressions of interest and log into your ICN Gateway profile and update it regularly, and then also take advantage of the support that's available to build your capability. And we're planning to run an ICN profile improvement workshop here, and I put in there early April because those were the dates that David Royal gave me a couple of weeks ago, but I think it might actually be late March. So make sure you've submitted an expression of interest, and then you'll be in the loop on those as well. And that's it from me, so all our contact details here. And what I'll also do is publish this presentation and then all the others that are that we receive approval to publish on the various portals. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Bettina. Before we wrap up, I've just actually got a question of Electronet, and I've formerly worked with Electronet, so I know the answer to this question. But I'd like John to just come up and just kind of break down what does on-ground works look like on a transmission line project, because I think that's something that we haven't really worked through. So if you just want to do that in a couple of minutes, John, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Yes, very good question, and apologies that we didn't go into much detail about this in our presentation. Due to the nature of the contracting model that we're undertaking with our preferred design and construct partners, we don't have a defined list of work packages right now to put out, and that's why our ICN profile is asking for general expressions of interest. What we're looking for is as many opportunities as possible that we can pass to our tenderers to give you an early advantage on working with them. But going into what sort of works are available, you will have seen pretty similar story, to be honest, of what you saw from Northern Water's presentations as well as EPIC and ACO BOC's. So we're looking for everything from civil works and early establishment to facilities management, concrete supply, material supply, logistics, freight. Yeah, very similar range to what you've seen, surveying. And then we get into the reason why we're partnering with some of those fairly major, tier one type D&C partners, and that is that the high voltage industry has some pretty specialist parts to it. Stringing high voltage power lines is not mean feat. It kind of is like a big stock fence, but just, on steroids. So there are a few more specialised angles there where those businesses have in-house capability. But absolutely, part of their offering is finding as many local industry and resources to partner with, so that they can also give us an offering that is compelling, not just from a price point of view, but also in meeting the targets within the industry participation policy. So yeah, there's that. I think one more point I wanted to touch on as well that Bettina referenced. We have a very short open period at the moment on ICN for our profile. The main reason behind that is we're about to open our select RFT. What we want to do is encourage as many local businesses in a very short space of time to register their interest so that we can get your names in front of our tenderers as soon as possible. Beyond that date, we do not intend to close our portal down and say, sorry, you missed out. It's a long project. We've got at least 18 months ahead of us, once we award contract. So our intent is to absolutely keep that portal open, update it with further information, and also provide you with updates to the successful parties at, once we reach that time. Tristan touched a little bit on those procurement timelines, to get through our reviews and evaluations and approvals. But by the time we get to about August, that's when we're expecting contract award or awards. As you saw, there were 3 major components to our works, 2 greenfield substations and 9 kilometres of transmission line. We've got a tight time frame to work to on this project, and we're absolutely committed to meeting the targets that have been outlined by the SA government. So we're looking to break down our packages to make sure that the timelines are achievable, and not lump it all together and blow out this project. It's of enormous potential to the state, and we want to support that.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else have we're ahead of time because you didn't have questions previously. Was anybody else sitting there with a question that they were like, or getting antsy about? Yes, here we go.
Hi, I'm Paul Radford. I'm the Project Director for the Hydrogen Jobs Plan. And I guess a message for the local companies is we talked a little bit about accommodation. Well, if you're a local company, we don't need to accommodate your workforce. So, there's a competitive advantage in the fact that your workforce is here, they're part of the community, and we value that. And, it's not an inexpensive thing to build an accommodation facility for 1,000 people and the services that need to go with it. So, just don't think that it all just comes down to, a hard dollar price of one local supply versus one elsewhere, because there are other ways that you have competitive advantage.
Thank you very much. I'm not afraid of an awkward silence, so I'm just going to let it be awkward for about 10 seconds. Beautiful.
Sam, sorry, I'm Miles from Yokogawa. All the packages that come in for the hydrogen project, are those built overseas and populated with all their instrumentation and controls, or do the locals here in SA get an opportunity to work on, the control side and instrumentation side of the project?
So I'll obviously let the others jump in as well as we go, but there'll be a combination of things. So if you think about turbines, they're going to be built overseas and coming in as a unit, as you would expect, manufactured probably in the US or Europe. In fact, I think sort of components of both and come together and assembled, and then they come to us. There's a whole lot of work going on to exactly what the rest looks like. Where the for example, electrolyser stacks might come from one area, and then there's a whole balance of plant that sits around that. And the question we're going through at the moment in the detailed design work is how much of that is done here and how much of that comes assembled. I'll let Vince talk about pipeline side of things. Some of the different storage solutions are in a similar sort of conversation. There will be some modular stuff that comes in. I guess the timeframes dictating for us mean that we need to reduce the stick build as much as we can to be able to hit those timeframes and get it up and running. But we are obviously looking at how do we optimise the workforce here and bring them in and get that balance right, I guess. Yeah. Is there anything else you guys?
Yeah, from our point of view, so we're looking at 2 EPC contractors. One will be on the main site with the compressor packages, and obviously a pipeline EPC contractor. So much like Sam's saying, so anything on skids, so the compressors come in as a skidded package, put together on site. But there's obviously a lot of field instrumentation that's available for that. Any assistance in regards to IEC would be well appreciated, and any skills like that in support through commissioning phases especially. As a ramp up and a ramp down, but using the knowledge that people have here is a key point.
Cool, thank you. Any more questions? All right, I've been awkward enough. I thought I'd get you all wriggling. Thank you so much again for taking time out of your busy day to come here to learn more about our projects and ways that you can be involved. We're only successful if we're successful, and so we really want to work with industry to make sure that it's a really good news story for the region. I've just been asked to remind everybody that for Northern Water, office hours will be in the OPSA office on every 2nd and 4th Wednesday, and the Tumby office on the 1st and 3rd Wednesday. We're also happy to come in at a time that suits you as well. The materials and presentations from today will be shared online on a variety of platforms. We'll email out links. They can go up on the ICN, and Tactic have a website, OPSA have a website, we've got a Your Say page, so they will be easily findable. Your little QR code that I keep mentioning, the one on your seat, we've got a feedback form about today's session. So, or if you want to connect with Northern Water or Tactic, you can use that. We only get better by receiving your feedback, and we really want to know what we can do to serve you. All of our information is geared towards helping you guys out. So if there's something that you're looking for, please tell us, because if we don't know, then we probably won't do it. But otherwise, we thank you again for all coming today. Stay tuned for more updates, and this is just another step down an exciting road. So thank you very much.